Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We got 9 o'clock. My name is Dr. Kevin Curry. I'm here to talk a little bit about sort of why we're here this morning, and then we're going to hand it over to Luke. He's going to have 30 minutes to deliver his final presentation. Our objectives for this presentation are all around the room. He's going to talk to us a little bit about who he wants to be as a teacher, a little bit about his student teaching internship, and what he's done along the way to get there. And so ultimately, this is the culmination of his journey here for these years that he's been as an ag education major. He's going to have 30 minutes to do that. We'll have time at the back of the room. I'm going to ask the audience if you could make sure your cell phones are silenced so that we don't have any interruptions. We will have time for a question and answer session after he's done with the presentation. That will last no more than 15 minutes. And then we will have a closed door session just with the faculty so that we can go over some things under the hood for lesson plans and meal plans and things like that. With us today, we have Dr. Daniel Foster, Dr. John Ewing, myself, and we have Mr. John Seaman and Ms. Beth Matthey, our programs managers, to provide feedback and evaluations for Luke. And with that, Luke, I'd ask that you, if you would, please introduce the people you brought with you here today that came a long way. And then if you'd like to mute that screen so that you can walk freely, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, so I brought my mother with me and also my fiance, Sammy. And then there's several other people in there here from my cohort. And then I got my roommates from Altoona, Justin and Eli. I haven't seen them in a very long time, so it's nice that they came here to support me. With that, I am Luke Kerstetter, as you have heard from Dr. Curry. So with my journey, it all started in 10th grade. I came to this building in 10th grade and sat down with Dr. Foster, and this is where my journey began. It was actually in 2014. It was a very awesome day. I remember little bits and pieces of it because a lot has happened since then. So that's where my journey had began. So today we got a roadmap. We're going to talk about who do I aspire as a teacher, my educational opportunities I've had over the past 4 years, as well as whenever I was a state officer that had prepared me for this presentation and for this part of my life. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, am I ready to student teach? So our roadmap for who do I aspire to be a teacher is we're going to go through my philosophy, classroom management, and then as you can see, other ways that I can integrate things into my classroom. So my teaching philosophy, I believe every student counts every day. I need to serve a student every day and every student every day. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter who. That is my job as a teacher. My career is to be for students, and that is it. My education was never about me. I was not here for myself. I was here for the students. I don't care about my education for me. It was for the students that I'm going to be teaching in the future. That is my teaching philosophy. I am there to develop the minds of students critically and try to get them to see things in a different format, in a different way. I'm trying to get them to understand different things that they would never understood before without me there. And lastly, I'm there to provide guidance and mentorship for those students through FFA and SAE. Those are 2 key things that I would like to do whenever I'm in those spaces of SAE and FFA. So classroom management. Around the room I have posters. There's expectations, consequences, and then my other one I have is up here with me. It's my classroom procedures. So throughout the semester next year, I'm going to be utilizing these in my classroom to guide the students in a way that I want them to perform in the class. So with expectations, they're going to be held to those expectations every day, which is respect others, take responsibility, act courageous, be kind, put forth your best effort. So every day they're going to have to meet those expectations because without those expectations, they're not going to get and succeed in my classroom. If they don't follow those expectations, I'll have consequences like verbal warning, teacher conversations, written up, parent contact, and then principal's office if it's bad enough. So those go right along with Solanco's disciplinary options. I know that with their school they have different levels of options if they need to. They get more serious as the options get higher. So I tried to mimic that in ways that if they were doing something in my classroom that was out of hand that I could not control, I could select off that list and have that as an option. So another thing with classroom management is the key to positive learning. Without positive classroom management, you're never going to have a class that is functioning properly. And then as the foundation of discipline in your classroom. So my model program that I would like to see whenever I graduate from college is a 3-teacher program where they'll be teaching agri-science, natural resources, and ag mechanics. And I would like to be in the ag mechanics track. I absolutely enjoy the mechanics. I enjoy welding. I enjoy electric wiring, small gas engines. That is my realm of knowledge. And I just absolutely love that. So that's in the model program I would love to step into. With that, I also think it's worthy to have these 2 other categories for students to get involved with. If they don't want to go the mech side, they can go to agri-science or natural resources. Whatever fits their way of life and what they want to do in the future. And what I really would like to do whenever I teach is teach diesel engines, because I know we haven't had a lot of that at Penn State, but I know that that's a big thing going around in the state as well as nationwide. Diesel engine and diesel theory is one of the biggest things coming up through. And how I would utilize lab in classroom would be in my ag mech. I would do lab integration by using, in my welding course, an actual like hitch pin like I have here. So they'd be welding this together and creating it so they could use it in their home, and they could also take it home if they would like, and they could paint it if they wanted extra time to do so. One thing I did find though at NAA convention this past couple weeks ago, one of the teachers was talking about a cardboard model. So what I was planning on doing next semester with my students is having them build a cardboard model of the hitch pin first, so they don't waste a lot of metal. They can actually see what it would look like in the end before they would get to the point of welding it together. So they would cut out the pieces with cardboard, that they would match the diagram and everything, the sizes and all that, and then they would glue it together so they could see the final product and what it would look like. And then they would move on to actually putting it together with metal. I thought that was a cool way to integrate it and make it look like it was actually supposed to look like, and not wasting a lot of metal and material with that. SAE integration. So SAE is one of the biggest things that I think is crucial to an ag program. So when I was in high school, I had held 2 SAEs, a home garden and a work experience SAE. So what I did was I had a home garden that I grew a lot of produce and I actually donated it to a local food bank. And then I had found a job at 16, and then I worked throughout the rest of my high school years working that job. And it really taught me a lot of things about life and about how responsibility is a key thing in life. And I think it's a very, very personal and personalized thing for every student. I think every student should have that chance to be involved in an SAE program, whether it is just working with their dog or if it's actually having a job in an ag mech shop or something like that. So it's highlight aspects within being taught within the classroom. So you can take what's being taught in the classroom and apply it to a job, and you can get some work experience within that. And then my plan for whenever I'm a teacher is actually to have Thursdays take time to make journal entries. So on Thursdays, we take a little bit of time at the end of the class period to enter all the journal entries you've had from that week or whatever into your AET system. And then also, I would do 2 Fridays a month. We do SAE spotlights. So I pick students, or students could randomly come up to me and say, I want to do an SAE spotlight, and we could talk about how on Fridays they could share with the students in their class what they have done and how they have succeeded within their SAEs. I think that's a good way to integrate SAEs within the classroom rather than just making it a separate version of the Ag Ed program. It'd be integrated within. And then FFA, that is one of the key things I've also loved. Without FFA, I would not be here today. Without having this program around me, built around me, I would not have made it to wanting to be a teacher. So students can build leadership qualities within the FFA. They can learn more things about career success and all that kind of stuff and career skills through FFA CDEs and LDEs. And I think it's crucial that every student has this opportunity to be an FFA. I know that at Solanco, not every student has that opportunity, which I want to see why that is, but I think it'd be awesome for every student to have that option to be an FFA, because it is such an awesome organization that can lead students out into the world, and they can have the skills and the knowledge to talk to people and actually interact with people. I absolutely loved FFA when I was in high school, and I think it's a great opportunity for students to be involved within the whole Ag Ed program. And giving the students the option to be in it is one of the key things. So community, we all need community in Ag Ed. And I think that one of the biggest things I've learned over these 4 years is without community, you would never make it anywhere. And within what I'm teaching this next semester, I could integrate within ag business a guest speaker from Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit, and then we could take a tour of a local ag business operation and see how they run their business and see what goes into it. And then from there, we could have the students present to the community about how to run a business effectively, or at least try to. I think it'd be a great idea to weave in and out community interaction. And then building construction. I thought about this. I don't have this class next semester, but I was just thinking outside the box. So with building construction, I could bring in a guest speaker from like a job site and have them talk to the students about what it's like to be on a job site and what it's like to actually build a building, and see what it's like working with other companies instead of just one. Because you know, at a building, it's not all just one company that's working there. You have a general contractor and then subcontractors underneath. And then I would also have them take a job site tour where they would go to a job site in the local area and see what it's like. I mean, we'd have to get some clearance issues dealt with and all that kind of stuff, but I think that'd be a cool, neat experience for students. And lastly, I would have them build a shed that we would donate to either the school or someone else in the local community. So they could get that experience of what it's like to be on a job site, and then they can also get the experience of what it's like to actually work in a job site. I just think that's a good way to involve the community and then also give back to the community at the same time. So with recruitment, we always have to recruit for our program. I know that I was recruited in 8th grade and a lot kind of stuff to the FFA as well as Ag Ed. So we're going to watch a little bit of a video.
At our program, we offer an array of courses that range from ag mechanics to agri-science, environmental, and natural resources. These courses provide students with opportunities to learn their knowledge, as well as the skills that go along with each of these categories. We try to give students the opportunity to utilize what they've learned in the classroom in their SAEs, as well as their FFA competitions.
So that was just a short clip of what I made this semester with a few other cohort members. What I would do with an actual program is I would have the students create a recruitment video for the students that they're going to be presenting to, but if it was for actual like community members and that kind of stuff, I would also have a part in it so they could see what it's like to, as a teacher, and try to give those other opportunities and other words of encouragement to be involved with the program rather than what the students could do. But I was also have the students talk about it too. Recruitment is one of the biggest things though, is trying to get people to be involved. So now we're going to move into the second part of my presentation. So we're going to do the experiential educational opportunities. So we're going to talk about courses and all the kind of stuff that I've done over the past 4 years at Penn State. So one of the key courses that I've had in agriculture education is AE 412, Methods of Teaching. I did not know how to structure a classroom. I did not know what was the best way to go about it and what was the best way to plan for success. Through this class that I've had with Dr. Foster, we've done a lot of different things, a lot of labs and that kind of stuff that we've had opportunities to learn how to do methods of teaching and actually teach students well. One of the key courses I found that was outside of Ag Ed but still in the College of Ag was Wildlife and Fisheries 410, so general fisheries. This class really pushed me to my limits. I did not know a lot of high math that was in that class. I had to really dig hard and dig down deep to figure out what I needed to do to succeed in that class. But throughout it, we did a stream study that talked about 4 different sections of a stream and then Lake Perez at Stone Valley Recreational Center. And what was really neat is I got to see what happens whenever you relate ag production to wildlife and natural resources. I thought it was really cool to see that bridge between the two, where we studied at a farm and the water quality was very different from when it was just in the woods. And seeing that relation and seeing how things can interact with that was kind of neat, and then I can bring that into my classroom whenever I teach. And then another one that was a key course that was outside of both Ag Ed and Agriculture, College of Agriculture, was Econ 102. So it was microeconomics. I took this class as a freshman, and it really taught me a lot about economics, and I'm teaching ag business. So one of my units in there is economics, and it taught me a lot about things that I can teach with my students and inform them what it's all about. I know that I did not know much about economics going in, so seeing those big picture ideas and having an awesome professor teach that to me was very vital to my success next year. Some certifications I picked up along the way. So I got NSTMOP instructor certified, so that's National Safe Tractor and Machinery Operator. So I can teach students how to drive tractors safely, and I can also certify them. So there are a few other certifications I have is through Briggs & Stratton. So this semester I worked through the Power Portal that I got access to through Mr. Culpson. And I got basic 4 cycle theory certified, as well as compression, ignition, and then diesel theory. And I also took their VOED teacher school exam, and I passed that one as well. So I got all those certifications to go behind me that can advance me in teaching my students in the small gas engines, which I'll have that class throughout the entire time of student teaching. And then lastly, I'm CPR and first aid certified, which is always key whenever you're in a classroom. Professional development. So I've had the opportunity to go through PWE and AA and NEE. So PWE, I sat through the ag mechanics, which was talking about ag equipment technicians. So I thought this was a really cool opportunity for students to have this to be able to go into an internship at 18 if they got taught all the skills that needed to be taught with the ag equipment technician. And I think it's a key thing moving forward in the ag ed world is trying to train students to get internships right out of high school. And this is one that can be very applicable. I'm really willing to learn and willing to work hard to get myself to the point where I can teach a lot of the content that's involved with that, which is hydraulics, diesel theory, all that kind of stuff that goes into working with ag equipment. I think that'd be a very awesome opportunity for students. I sat through the chapter 339 workshop. I had no idea what that was at that point because we didn't have 8413 yet, so I was very confused with what Doug Brown was talking about. But through that class, I learned a little bit about it, and I got a lot of resources that can help me in the future. And then through this 8413 class, I've actually learned about what Chapter 339 is, and it's evaluating the program for success and how that program is succeeding in this state and if they're meeting the standards that need to be met. And then NEE, we went through the FAST Symposium, which was really cool. We dove into inquiry-based learning. We got to talk about what it's like to have inquiry-based learning and not just sitting there and having the students listen to the teacher. I thought it was really cool that we could go through that and have the students facilitate what they needed to do and learn along the way rather than the teacher teaching. It's student-centered, it's awesome-driven. So another teacher workshop I sat through was work-life balance. I've noticed throughout the semester I've spent a lot of time in 213 and I've need to have that balance somewhere along the line. I've taken not a lot of time for myself throughout the semester, and I want to see what I can do next semester to take time for both me and my family, as well as teaching and that kind of stuff. So I want to see where I can go with what I learned in that workshop and all that kind of stuff. One of the biggest things that I thought was really cool is I sat through an inclusion workshop. And I know that we've talked about inclusion in class, but sitting through a workshop with another professor when he was talking about how inclusion is more than just skin color. It's anything that involves socioeconomics. It's anything that involves special education, anything like that. It's including everyone every day. So that's where I was thinking it's every student every day. It doesn't matter what the student is, doesn't matter who the student is. You need to be teaching every student every day, no matter what. So I thought it was really cool, and the professor was really awesome. I'd love to go visit him sometime in Kentucky. Another thing I sat through was STEM metal fabrication. So with that, they were talking about how there are different ways to fabricate metal and all that kind of stuff. That's where also I learned about the diagrams of cardboard cutouts. I thought that was kind of cool, of creating cardboard designs before we actually did the real project. And then connections that I have made along the way throughout my internships. I've had a Wildlife Leadership Academy internship where I got to be a summer intern. I taught and mentored high school students. And then I had worked with about 120 over six field schools, and I had the opportunity to actually sit down with them and have wildlife conversations about them. And some of them are really knowledgeable that I didn't even know about the things that they knew about, which is really neat to learn from the students rather than me just teaching the students. And through that internship, I also got to meet a lot of different people, a lot of different professors from Penn State, as well as other universities that are involved in wildlife education and that kind of stuff. And I also got to work with Gary Alt, which was a wildlife biologist here in the state of Pennsylvania, which he is now in California. And then I am now a Sunday school teacher for Peckway Youth. I've been leading them for about a couple months, probably since April, so however many months that is. I enjoy it. I love working with students. They're freaking awesome. They're amazing. No matter what, every Sunday I go in there, they are doing their best, and I'm doing my best to do what I need to do in teaching them. And they are very quick to answer and that kind of stuff. And working with them makes me happy. So, diversity of learners. So as you can see, I have worked with in the Wildlife Leadership Academy, and with that I have worked with a multitude of students from different backgrounds. A lot of them did not come from a good home. Some of them were socioeconomic. They didn't have a lot of money within their family, which was kind of neat to see how they got there and how they could participate within those programs through scholarships, that kind of thing. The inclusion workshop I sat through, which was really neat, talking about how not everyone's not based on color, it's based on other things that involve that person. And it's about every student every day, no matter what. It's student driven, it does not matter. And then at the NEE, the keynote speaker, Dr. Roger Cleveland, he was talking a lot about inclusion, and it was really cool about the same thing about what the University of Kentucky professor was talking about, but still, it was a different format and a different version of what he was talking about. It really got me involved in thinking, how can I be that teacher? How can I work with students and be that inclusive teacher for everyone? Am I prepared? So we're going to go through a description of my crop breeding center, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to watch a little short video.
Pascalingo area, there are 3 ag teachers, Mr. Colson, Mrs. Balmer, and Mrs. Andrews with me. There are 202 affiliate members in the program. There is 2 classrooms, one for shop classes and one for regular classes. There's 1 shop with welders, woodworking equipment, and engines lab. The program focuses Ag General and Ag Mechanics.
there's just a short description. I don't want to play the whole video because it's 3 minutes long. We don't have time for that. So a little bit more about the program is they have the system set up that not every student is involved with the FFA, which I find is kind of interesting and different because whenever I was in high school, every student had the chance. We did not have to pay to be involved, but if they want to be in the FFA, they have to pay a certain amount. I forget what the amount is, but they had to pay to be involved, which I think every student should have that opportunity no matter what. They shouldn't have to pay the money to be involved. So I want to see a little more about that and see how that works within that school because I know every school is different. Another thing with that is whenever they are involved with the FFA, everyone does have an SAE. It's 100% within the students that are involved, which I think is really cool because they do need to have an SAE. It's awesome to have that project and see what it's like. And a lot of it is like beef and sheep and that kind of stuff, raising market animals that'll be sold at the fair. A few of them have like deer farms, but not very many, which I'd like to visit those deer farms and see what it's like. So evaluation, so they have abundant amount of resources. I've been there, their cabinets are full of different resources, different books, different materials that I can utilize whenever I go in there as a student teacher. Like I said, they have 3 teachers and they train students for careers. I know that's one of Mr. Culpson's highest things is he wants to train them for careers outside of high school. I know with his small gas engines, he dives really deep into the material and he tries to teach them everything they can know about small gas engines so they could go into a career that has that opportunity. And I know that within the agri-science and the natural resources, they try to train them for going into education after high school. And like I mentioned, the FFA and SE, they have students involved, it's just not 100% according to their numbers within classrooms. I'd like to see more of that and see what happens with the program. So if you could look into your packet, which I should have mentioned this earlier, because there's different things within that. In that handout, you'll see an experiential calendar that I have for the entire year. So this is just a snippet. This is just January. I'll start in January 6th, we'll be at Farm Show, and then that rest of the week I'm observing, and then I will officially take over my first class to the January 13th. It'll be small gas engines, and then throughout that, it'll be my first unit of carburation. And that unit will last about 3 weeks. Throughout that calendar, you'll see what I'm teaching, when I'm teaching it, and all that kind of stuff. And I pick up classes really quick. By the end of January, I already have 3 classes. So. My course of study, so as you can see, this is a broader picture of it. So I'm starting out with carburation of small gas engines, moving into ignition, governors, lubrication, and then I'm picking up classes along the way. I'm only going to have hand and power tool for 1 unit because I needed the time to wind down back down into 1 class again. So it'd be neat to see how that all works because with that hand and power tools class, I have 2 sections of it. So I want to see, Mr. Culpson and I were talking about how the difference will be between 1 class. 1 class will probably be more advanced and quicker at getting things done, and 1 class probably will not. So I'm curious to see how that will be and what it's like running 2 classes rather than just 1 section. Organizational system. So on here, on this table, I got a whole bunch of binders that have everything in there. I have it organized out to, in here I have tabs, or not tabs, I have table contents, and then what's underneath each tab. I've been trying to be real organized about what I have in those binders and trying to do my best so I'm organized next semester and I'm not frazzled in trying to figure out where my things are. So that's my organizational system. And then my instructional materials, I have lesson plans, I have unit plans, I have a whole bunch of assessments in each one of these, as well as lesson plans to go along with them, and worksheets. I'm trying my best to get everything ready to go for next semester so I'm not struggling that first week. And I'll probably be working on more of that over winter break as well. So strengths that I have leading into student teaching. So I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. I can't go anywhere without trying to learn and dive into something. I know that whenever we were in DC, Sam and I were in DC a couple weeks ago, or actually during the summer, we were going through the Air and Space Museum, and I wanted to read all the stuff that was there, and they were way ahead of me, and I want to read, I want to find out more. I just enjoy that. I've sat through effective communication courses throughout the semester, and I feel like I can communicate with students really well. That may not be at my best, but I can always improve, and I would love to improve. My professionalism, I've been told I'm very professional. Some days I don't see it, but I can be professional in the classroom and try to be my best person whenever I'm out in the world. Adaptability, I can adapt on the seat of my pants, all that kind of stuff. I can adapt whenever I need to. Things happen, all that kind of thing. And then organization, as you can see, I'm very organized. I have everything laid out here nicely. But I absolutely love organization. If my classroom's not organized, I'm going to be crazy. I need to have everything in the right spot, right place, and I get that from my mother. But that's just the way I am, and I think those are some good strengths I can lean on whenever I'm student teaching, because I can always lean on them and work off of them to build up. So some personal growth that I have. I'm not going to read them word for word, but I definitely need to learn some more about animal science and ag business. I don't know much about it, and I need to learn more about it as I go through so I can be a better teacher and I can teach those students and I can integrate ag business within other classes rather than just an ag business course, and then animal science as well. I also want to be inclusive to all students. I don't know if I am or not, and this is one of the biggest things that I have not really worked on with myself, but I would love to actually, whenever I get in the classroom, to see what I'm like within inclusivity. But my goal is to be inclusive to every student every day. And then lastly, I definitely want to explore different ways to teach in the class and lab. I don't want to do the same thing every day, because then the students are going to get bored, I'm going to get bored, so I need to teach it in a way that's fresh every day. And then lastly, my last thing is thank you for coming. I absolutely enjoyed you guys being here. And my quote that I have up here is, let my teaching fall on you like rain, let my speech settle like dew, let my words fall like rain and on tender grass, like gentle showers on young plants. Deuteronomy 32:2.
Thank you, Luke. So we're going to have now 15 minutes for questions. We have Ms. Tiffany Morey, who is monitoring the interwebs we have both a Zoom session as well as a Facebook Live session where we're hopefully going to ask comments from that audience. But we will start with this one in here, and so we would like to bounce between questions between the panel as well as the student or the audience that we have in attendance. So how about we start with the audience first? What questions do you have for me?
Yes, Amanda.
Well, Luke, you talked a lot about being inclusive in your class and that you went through different workshops and stuff. What is one thing that you want to implement at your time at Solanco to make sure that you are being inclusive? Was there anything that you learned?
So I want to try to be attentive to every student and not single students out. I know that I have already noticed some weak spots with me when I'm teaching when I'm teaching at the church and that kind of stuff. I've always looked to my right side, and I really want to see if I can broaden and try to look at the left as well. I know that's one of the key things I've picked up on myself, is trying to cover the whole entire room rather than just the right side. So trying to break those barriers is what I want to try to do.
Ben?
Luke, talk to me about self-care as a teacher.
So self-care as a teacher.
What does it mean?
Okay.
When I say that, and how are you going to do it?
So self-care as a teacher is trying to find something for yourself every day, at least 30 minutes a day, and not doing everything work every day. So what that means to me is trying to find something that's beneficial for me every day instead of just doing stuff for school or stuff for other people. I need to find something that's benefiting me personally. And how that can be accomplished is, let's say I'm having a tough day at school and I go home, maybe I'll just zone out and play video games for a half hour. But that's what I think self-care is for me, as a teacher.
Let me ask you a follow-up for a different question on content. What's the difference between rules and expectations?
So rules are things that are to be broken, and the expectations are things that should be met. I know that whenever I was in high school, if a teacher would say rules, I would want to break them, because why not? But as expectations, you're expected to meet those expectations, but as a rule, you're meant to break them.
Questions? Not seeing yet from the Zoom session. If there's anything else on Facebook, Tiffany?
Facebook Live is down in the
Okay.
So Luke, you are always very calm, very reserved, always have it under control. How are you going to handle that student that just keeps chipping away at you? And no matter what you say, no matter what you do, they have a comeback, they have a action that is, breaks the rule or not meeting expectations. How are you going to handle that?
So I know me personally, since I am, like you said, quiet and reserved, I know that I have a very high patience level. I can be very patient if I need to. I don't know what I'll do in the classroom. I'm definitely not going to lash out on the student, because that's just not fair to them. If I need to, I'll have a come to Jesus moment with them out in the hall. But what I would like to do is try to be with that student as best as possible and mentor them through what they're going through, because I know that they're not trying to attack me. There's something else going behind that issue. So seeing what that issue is and trying to help them through it is what I would like to do.
question. Luke, I believe I'm quoting here, and you said you learned a little bit about chapter 339 and 413. That made me go, what? Hopefully after your response, I don't have to give you one of these. There you go. I don't know, they just showed up, so I'm using them. So, why do we have chapter 339? Because maybe some folks here in the room don't know exactly what that's about. Or, why do we have national quality program standards? What are they, and how do you view them? What is your philosophy on those standards?
So Chapter 339 and the National Quality Standards are to see if the program is meeting the requirements they need to, and it's also to see if they're meeting the standards that they need to. I know that every program needs to be evaluated some way, somehow, and that's the evaluation form that PA uses, the Chapter 339. They actually go through a process every 5 years that they come and visit the school, and they go through a whole bunch of documents and see if the school is actually meeting the needs that they need to be meeting. For me, I think it's meeting expectations as well as going above and beyond, because they'll see what you do in that classroom through the materials you provide. And if you're going above and beyond, you're definitely going to meet those standards, so why not try to do your best and try to succeed without having to just meet the minimum standard. So that's my philosophy on that.
Thank you. Luke, you talked about, I liked your visual in your model program, and you said you were really inclined towards that diesel mechanics, ag mechanics track. Talk to me about maybe if you don't get that program that has 3 teachers where somebody can handle the horticulture and the animal science, and you are the whole shebang, you're teaching both horticulture and ag mechanics or something like that. Talk to me about balancing what your ideal program is, being a 3-teacher program, and maybe what might be the reality, which is you're by yourself.
So if I'm by myself, I would try to learn as much as I can in those other classes that I don't have a lot of content knowledge in. I would try to learn more about the content rather than trying to dive into my ag mechanics. I'd try to dive into horticulture, animal science, that kind of stuff, so I can broaden my horizons and learn what I need to learn to teach my students. Because if I don't know the content, how can I teach my students? With ag mech, I could just breeze that off for a little bit. I would have to brush up in a couple years and learn more about it because things are going to change over time. But whenever I start out, I'd have to learn that content right away. And I think that's what I've been trying to do with this semester. Is I've been more diving into animal science and ag business than I have been with ag mechanics, because I know a little bit about it that I can be dangerous, but with the animal science and ag business, I do not. So
I want to piggyback off of that, Luke. We have a decent, we believe in the ag ed model for students. And I'd like for you to describe to me how a student could participate in a comprehensive school-based ag education program coming into your diesel mechanics class in a connected way.
So going through all 3 components of the ag ed model, right?
Now it's connected.
Okay. So they would come into my classroom, we could talk about diesel theory, we could talk about all the parts of a diesel engine, and then from there they could broaden their horizons and stretch it to a 4-cycle engine. And then whenever we go through that process of what is a 4-cycle engine, they could dive into the ag mechanics CDE, because they'd be learning about 4-cycle engines in the ag mechanics CDE and that kind of thing. Because I know that's what they do within that CDE. And then going into an actual SAE program, they could visit a diesel shop, they could work in a diesel engine shop and see what it's like. They could have an internship there, or just even an exploratory program and see what it's like.
Tiffany, think has a question on the interwebs.
This comes from Megan Royer. First off, she said you did a great job. And then she wants to know is what activities outside of class are you most looking forward to when engaging your students? And how do you plan to balance those opportunities with your personal life?
So I'm really excited to see what it's like at SLLC as a teacher. I was there as a student, I was there as a second-year scholar, and I was there as a state officer. So I like to see the whole realm of it, what's it like as a teacher. I'm really interested to see what the students gain out of it, because I know what I gained out of it. So that's one of the key things that I'm looking forward to at an outside of school event. And then I'm going to try to balance my work life between what is best for me and what's best for my students. I know that my students need a lot, and I know that I need some. So it's just a give and take, see what I need and all that kind of stuff. But I want the students to come first no matter what. Yes, John.
So either during your internship or in your futuristic hypothetical actual program that you're going to manage one day, and you're tasked with teaching a class or even just a subject that you're not very familiar with, what are some of your go-to resources to teach yourself that content that you spoke of? What are the sorts of options you're going to look for that information?
So I know at Penn State, we have the center that does a lot of professional development. And I know with that I could get some professional development in a certain area. And there's also the DIY program, I think that's what it's called, that I could utilize if I needed to learn content. One of the key things that I was thinking of is at Solanco, I was already told by Mr. Culpson that Briggs & Stratton has a program that's out in western side of the United States that I could go to if I want to learn more about small gas engines and deep dive into it and learn about it, so I could go to that program and have the school district help pay that if I needed to. So just finding opportunities for professional development I think would be the best thing to do. If it's like quick turnaround, I would probably dive into a textbook or something and try to learn it myself if I needed to, but I'd try to find those sources elsewhere if it was a long-term thing where it was like a summer between.
Hey Luke, one thing I didn't hear is I need you to talk to me about what was your professional contribution to the community of learners that we refer to as PSU Ag Ed 20. How did you help lift and advance that TCHAC PSU?
So I know here I've done a lot of stuff for the center throughout my 3.5 years here, but that doesn't really involve the PSU TCHAG relating to students as much. I know with my cohort I've shared a lot of materials. I've shared a lot of things about engines and ag mechanics, things that they don't know about. I've shared unit plans, I've shared lesson plans, I've shared some other things I've gathered from Mr. Culpson. I have the Power Portal access as a technician, so not as a technician, as a dealer, so I can give out technician accounts. And I did that to Jess and Brandon so they could get some information for whenever they teach small gas engines next semester. I've also provided other things for my cohort, as well as guidance and that kind of thing throughout this semester.
We have time for one more question from the audience if we can have it. No former roommates want to give them a dig. You don't have to use all of our question time. Is there any other questions from the panel? Let's all thank Luke for all his hard work.